how do you respond to this idea that is very rampant in Kenya, that our emotions don't matter? Because I saw you mention it, it's mentioned in the report, that our emotions don't matter. What matters is getting development, poverty, ignorance, and disease, you know. So that formula does not include our emotional life and our social life. So how do you respond to that?
You know, it's a difficult question, Mwalimu, and it's a struggle I've always had, especially when I'm engaging in high-level political processes. My hypothesis has been, well, we are living in a world where, you know, it is defined by the coloniality of power.
Mm.
For those of us who have gone through the academy, there's always the kind of the privileging of, be rational about this. Babu, don't be emotional about this. And I sometimes wonder where this division or the dichotomy comes from, where we begin feeling like it is normal not to express emotion. Particularly, I think in patriarchal societies, like many of our nations in this country, there's a sense in which, because our power structures and systems are dominated by men, and we are raised in such a way as to emphasize, we got to be rational, the emotions don't matter. It's hurting us. In my research, Mwalimu, one of the most kind of astounding things I experienced when I moved around, this was just after the post-election violence in 2007 and 8, was the manner in which people talk about emotions in present tense. And I'll give you an example. I was in Wagala, I was in Wajir, so, we landed in Wajir, I was interviewing a few people, and then I needed to go to the Wagala airfield. And there's this young guy, a taxi driver, who took me there. It's a bit of a distance, and then there's a roadblock there. We have our Kenya military, I think, or GSU, and then you negotiate your way, and then I went to the airfield. And when I was in the airfield with him, he recounted what happened. And so, we would be walking and he would be telling me, I wanted to pick some stones just for my own kind of remembrance. Mm-hmm. And he told me not those rocks there because those were placed by the community. And it is part of their way of coming to terms with those emotions. So he took me through, we came back to the vehicle and we were heading back to Wajir. And that's when it kind of struck me. I looked at him and I thought, there is no way this guy would have been there in 1984. He was too young. And so I asked him, you've told me the stories about we were here. This happened to us. The men were stabbed. We were in the sun for hours. And then one day we say, enough is enough. And we ran towards the fence. And then they shot at us. And he said, no, he was not there, of course. He was born much later. But this story has been told over and over again. And you can imagine it is told with the emotion. And even for a person who was not there, kind of the emotion becomes even greater through the story. This is now the power of storytelling. Mm-hmm. Because images are formed, the emotion and so on and so forth. So for people who say the emotions don't matter, we are losing a very critical piece in how we theorize and how we practice our efforts to break cycles of violence in a community or in a society. Just to give you another example, I spent about 3 months living in a small village in Aotearoa, New Zealand. This was part of my doctoral research. So I would accompany the community. I would be present there when they were singing their songs. And there is a way the Maori people sing certain songs, which is very different from the way a typical, African would sing, almost in what we call 4-part harmony. So there was a sense in which they were singing certain songs almost flat. So it will go da ra 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 ra. So for me, I'd not been used to that. I needed to hear, and as an artist storyteller, you want to hear those different parts of the voices. So I said, how come these songs are sung this way and these ones are sung that way? And there was one person in the community, a woman who was a leader and a guardian participating in those songs. And she told me, this is the way our ancestors told us to sing these particular songs. And the idea was, these are the songs that tell the stories of how we suffered during colonialism and the British, the destruction and the rape and the killing and so on and so forth. And our ancestors were very keen that when we sing these songs, we should make sure that we pass the message, but not the emotion that goes with it.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that's so deep.
If you create all those different voices, they will also get the emotion. Just to give you an example, Mwalimu, I don't know whether, if you ever visited South Africa and attended any gathering, I was there during the first election of Zuma. And I remember observing, we were part of a civil society observer mission, something. So you go to these political gatherings. And as soon as the former President Jacob Zuma began a certain song, and for example, he loved the song, which basically says, bring me my shotgun. Now, if you sing that kind of song in South Africa of 2017 or 16, you not only bring back the message, you also bring back the emotion. They become very raw. And I think to some degree, I've seen that also in Kenya during election time. There are certain songs I hear, and I know that the intention here is not about the message of celebrating our history as a people and so on. Is a politician wants to make sure the wound is peeled and the emotion is sort of use it then for their political project.
Actually, my students told me that, and I had never thought about it. They said that, because I was asking, why are we still always voting in the same way? And that's what they said. They said, because when the politicians come, they come and bring back all those old wounds as if they are fresh. And then people just go over them again. And so they don't hear anything else. I mean, they're not able to ask any other questions of the politicians because they are back into those emotions of that time.
Yes.
Wow,